Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle Podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a great show today. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, and I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure that out when we get there. However, I can't do this alone, so as always, I'm joined by Rafe. Rafe, how are we doing today?
Hey Zach, I am utterly fantastic because I know this is going to be a great show. You don't know what we're talking about, but I have some things that you're gonna be like, it's, you know what? Quite literally, Zach, they are out of this world. All right. So, but before we start, I gotta say, like I always do, thank you to all our listeners. It's, we do this for you, and please let us know if there's anything that we can do to make it better for you. As always, you can contact us at bufnagle@bufnagle.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all sorts of interwebby spaces. We are available on Spotify and Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts and all sorts of places. If there's like this magic new podcast place that we should be on, hey, let us know and we'll make sure we'll get on there. Hey, if you're new to the podcast, then welcome. We're glad that you are here. We're going to ask you to give us 4 episodes. You give us 4 and we will give you a reason to come back. We're talking about all sorts of different things week to week, but there's always going to be something that resonates with you. And remember, if you tell a friend to listen, we will give you a free episode. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been saying this, so we're starting to get some traction on this. We are looking for somebody to join our little Bufnagle team, somebody to help us look good and sound even better. So a lot of this technical stuff that we do with computers and the internet and social media and things like that, we could, quite frankly, we could use a hand with some of those tasks. So we'll ask you to contact us at bufnagle@bufnagle.com and send us some information about you that would appeal to us in this realm. So, send us your name and contact information, maybe a picture of a collage you made out of macaroni or something like that. And send us that stuff. We'll evaluate it and try to figure out a way that you guys can work with us. Be a great opportunity for a student to put on a resume that they've done actual action in this realm. So that's where we are, Zach.
That sounds fantastic. This is also a fun thing to note. You said we were looking for some new people. We've been doing that for a while. While we've been looking for those new people, we've also been apparently listed as a top 100 podcast according to Apple Podcasts. So it's a little celebration that we get to have. So if you want to celebrate with us, you can do that. However, we're also bringing on a guest today, and our guest today is America's favorite rocket scientist. He's been on plenty of times before. Bob, how are you doing today?
Zach, I'm doing great. It's always good to visit you guys and have a conversation about space or other things. And it's a beautiful spring day here in Michigan, and the weather has been quite nice recently, and my flowers are still blooming. So I'm doing good.
So Bob, you said that there's some space anniversaries that are all taking place kind of now. There's a bunch of things that resonate with you. What are those things?
Well, as it turns out, that as we sit and record this, the 40th anniversary of the first space shuttle launch is tomorrow. And in fact, I was actually there and saw that launch in person. I was working in Florida at the time and could go over to the launch and watched it from the NASA Causeway. So that's one anniversary. And then actually today is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 13 launch. And most folks are familiar with the Apollo 13 mission because of the movie by the same name with Tom Hanks. And that was a really good movie, and I certainly enjoyed it.
What year was that?
That was 50 years ago. So that would have been
50 years.
1971.
71, April 11th, 71. Now, you're probably listening to this a little later, but we
Actually, it wasn't. It was 51 years ago.
51.
My bad.
1970.
1970. You're right.
So 51 years ago, they were taking off, and Houston, they were having a problem. Is the way we could say it, right?
Well, they weren't having a problem when they took off.
Well, so how far do you just? Sorry. All right, they're on their way to the moon. Something goes wrong. How far was it? How long had it been since they had taken off?
They were on their second day of a 3-day journey to the moon, and
Kevin Bacon stirred the tanks.
Luckily, yes, Kevin Bacon. They luckily they were on the way there and not on the way back, because they were able to use the lunar module to get home safely. And of course, it was NASA's successful failure. If that had happened on the way back, it would have had a different outcome, because they wouldn't have had the lunar module.
Right. Okay. So I got to ask this. Okay. I'm sorry. Zach, I know this isn't in the script. I'm going here. I got to go here.
Wait,
right. So
did we derail off the tangent? Because that's
we,
never
we,
happened
we,
on the show before.
we're still in the intro.
Can we start over?
No. We are not starting over. Okay. So there's the command module thing with, all right, the lunar module is attached. They're on their way to the moon. The thing there's a problem with the command module, essentially. All right.
Well, the service module that kept the command module alive.
Okay. The service module, right? All right. So, but these things are connected with a little tunnel. They climb through from one to the other. Did they like seal it off when they were in the lunar module? Or because it's like the air goes back and forth between them. Like,
no, they left them open. But they spent the time in the lunar module.
Why go there instead of just hanging out? It was the air goes back and forth. Wasn't that the big issue? Or
it was really cold in the lunar in the command module. It got really cold.
Right. So did they keep the heat on in the lunar module, or it was just like
they
close together?
They were all in the lunar module, and they had some equipment on, whereas the command module was completely powered down.
All right, but it was still open to that area. There was no wall.
No, the tunnel was open.
Okay, so that I just want to thank you for clearing that up. See, these are the kinds of things that dwell in the heads of America's space fanatics, and now that has been answered. So that's a good thing. So we have 40th anniversary of the shuttle. We have the 51st anniversary of the launch of the Apollo 13 Tom Hanks mission, right? And then there was another one you had.
It's also the sixth. Tomorrow would be the 60th anniversary of the first human spaceflight, which was Yuri Gagarin.
Wow.
Yeah,
I wrote a paper about Yuri Gagarin.
You wrote a paper about that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When was that?
It was a poor paper on the space race, and we'll just end it at that.
Okay, well, all right. And coming up later this week is the Titanic. I think the Titanic thing was early April.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's April. Well, anyway, so all these things are happening, Bob, and
Yes.
you mentioned this a while back, but that leads me to a thought. All right, and this is okay. You were born in 58, right? And
yes, that's true.
And you lived through the golden years of the space program. And like you were 11 years old when
I grew up through the golden years of the human spaceflight program.
Yeah,
is how I would say that.
Formative is not a strong enough word to describe how it affected your generation.
Yes, and certainly me in particular. It had a profound effect on me, and certainly was one of the things that drove me to be an engineer, other than the fact that I was just wired that way anyway. But it's the thing that got me interested in computers and software, and it gave me a direction to go in.
Right. Okay. So it's 1969. You're 11 years old. Okay. 1969. I was 4. Okay. So I don't remember much about 1969. And I'll tell you, I'll be real honest. I don't remember the Apollo 11 mission. I don't remember the Apollo 13 mission. I do remember watching some liftoffs and some countdowns as a kid. All right. So I didn't see, I was right on the tail end of the Apollo missions. And by the time the last one came through in 72, Is that right?
Yeah, December of 72 was Apollo
So
17.
then I was in second grade. All right. So I was barely sentient at that point. I had like, the church calls 7 age of reason, right? So you start understanding what's going on. Okay. So that's where I was right at the end of Apollo. Okay. All right. And so I saw all the films and I saw the movies, and we ate space food sticks. Okay. And we had the plastic models with the model cement and stuff like that. And then we got the shuttle program. The 80s gave us the shuttle program, which was kind of nice. And like the first shuttle was called like Enterprise. I remember they put it on the 747 and they flew it up there, and then they tried to see if it would sail and fly right, all that
Right,
stuff.
the approach and landing tests, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So they did all that, and I saw that in like early high school stuff. But I gotta say, when I look at, and this is maybe blasphemous a little bit, but I think it's honest. I gotta say that when I look at the shuttle missions and I compare them to the Apollo missions, I'm a little underwhelmed. All right, I just it's low Earth orbit. It's like what do they say, in the fuzz on the peach? It's what I feel like. Here's what I feel like. I feel like when I was a little kid and we would take vacations, and every now and then I'd fall asleep in the car, and then you'd wake up and you'd be in a different place in a different time, and like I kind of feel like the American family went on a road trip to the Grand Canyon, and I woke up in the car looking out the back seat of the station wagon as we were leaving Grand Canyon National Park. That's kind of, and everybody's talking about how great the canyon was, and I can kind of see it there. Yeah, I bet that was, and I'm feeling a little disappointed, and I'm like, Dad, I
Just
really
a
didn't get
little?
just a little, okay. And then, but then you know what? Dad says? Dad always says something like, "Well, would you like to go see the world's largest ball of string?" And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, you're giving me, I got it. You're throwing me a bone here. This would be great. I would love to see the world's largest ball of string. But you know what? It's a little underwhelming. And then I look at a guy like Zach, who was born after the station wagon trip got home. He's got to wear seatbelts his whole life. All right. He's like he was in a car seat. I was never were you in a car seat? All right. So think about that. He's got to do all that. The best he gets is like reruns of the space shuttle. Right. You know what? Here's what.
And writing papers on Yuri.
You're right. And you can't, you have to write papers on Yuri Gagarin. So you know what? Here's the whole point. We got screwed, Bob. All right. My piece of the generation got screwed. We want our Apollo. We want more than Apollo, Bob. We want Mars. Are you listening? We want Mars. We want Mars.
Okay, wait. If
I
you
hear-
don't want Apollo, and Apollo is a Greek god, how can you get Mars a Roman god? You got your gods all messed up there.
I don't care if we name it after the Aztec god of human sacrifice. All right. Let's
Well,
get.
I might not want that.
All right. So tell me, can we get Mars?
So of course we can get Mars. It's just a question of doing the things that get us there, right? And certainly, Rafe, I feel some of what you feel. I don't feel it quite as strongly because I did experience growing up with the Apollo missions. Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. My earliest memories of this human space flight are watching the Gemini missions on TV. So I do remember that. And then Apollo came and I watched all of it, absolutely. And then, yes, I also felt like, well, this is what was supposed to happen. I mean, this was the first step of the journey of humanity into outer space. That's what we both understood, that's what was supposed to happen. And then it didn't happen. And there's lots of reasons for that. And of course, probably the biggest reason is we were wrong, you and I, young kids of that age, we were wrong in the idea that this was humanity's first step into outer space rather than a act in the Cold War that,
Yes. Yeah,
so,
I got you. Well, that's a complicated thing, Bob. We were little kids. How are we supposed to know that, right?
Well, exactly. And so, to be fair, yes, our expectation was, hey, we were going to go into outer space. This is really cool.
We were going to live on the moon.
And we were, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is where my expectations came from, because I saw that in 1969, just before. Well, actually, it was in April, I believe. And that was what framed my expectations about what the next 30 years were going to be. And it turned out to be nothing like that. And actually, one of my favorite quotes is by Arthur C. Clarke, who worked with Stanley Kubrick on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And what he said was, the fact that we went to the moon was not amazing. The fact that we went to the moon and never went back, that is amazing. And that's really what we're getting at here, is we never went back. We never went back to the moon. We never went anywhere else. And we stayed in Earth orbit. We stayed basically in the cradle.
So, all right. So we haven't gone back. We should have gone back. We owe it to Zach's generation and his kids to do something more. What do we got to do as a species? I'm not talking like, which country should do which, or do we have to have certain policies? Like, technically, there's a lot of talk about Mars. Our former president talked about it. I don't know if Mr. Biden's talked about it, but
Elon Musk has
talked about it. Right. So what do we got to do? I mean, do we have to go to the moon first? What kind of rockets do we need? Can you walk me through what we need? What do we need to do?
Okay. Yes. That's a tall order.
Get in rocket ship, send rocket ship up, find Mars, land. Okay, I don't really know what's hard about this.
Yeah. Wow. Let me count the ways.
Well, I can say that it's a little harder than that, or we'd have already done it. But certainly SpaceX is interested in going to Mars. In fact, that's one of the things they say they are here for, is they want to make humans multiplanetary species. So they are doing things with the expressed, not just implied, with the express purpose of going to Mars. But rather than get into specifics of what SpaceX is doing or anything like that, we can talk in a little more abstract terms about how to go to Mars eventually, and what it takes to get there.
Right. So now it's harder than the moon, right? I mean, it's not like go to the moon and it's not like they're all lined up. Like there's the Earth and then there's the moon and then there's Mars. It's not how it works, right? There's a complicated orbital thing going on. You got different gravities, wells for where these planets sit. You got to get rockets there and back. There's a time issue. What do we have to go to the moon first? Should we do that? Should we just try to go? How do we do it?
There's what we don't have to. I would make the argument myself personally. I'm a moon firster. I think that we should. And one of my another favorite quote, I've got two favorite quotes from about space, and this is another one of them. And it was from Kraft Dericke, who is one of von Braun's, Werner von Braun, the German rocket scientist. He was one of von Braun's guys. And he said, if God wanted man to become a spacefaring species, he would have given man a moon.
Yeah. That's like if God would have wanted man to run around naked, he would have made us born that way, right? So
if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll come back for more. Same thing.
I think those are all the same quote, Zach. I think those are all the same thing. So we have a moon so we can go to Mars. And
we have a moon so we can learn how to do what we need to do in order to expand out into space.
Okay, so is going to the moon a necessary learning thing for the current generation, or is it necessary because we'll use that as a stepping stone? We'll use it as a rendezvous point. I don't know, something that's not here, but it's not quite there. It's a stepping stone.
In my opinion, yes. The answer to your question is yes, because it's been 50 years since the Apollo missions to the moon. We haven't left Earth orbit in 50 years. So the people who did that amazing, incredible thing are in their 80s, or they've already left us, and the experience isn't there. So we need to learn how to do that again. And we need to have the technical means to do that again. And then the other half of that is why to go to the moon is because of the resources that are there.
The resources. It's like
there are resources there that can help us expand out into the solar system.
Okay, whoa. You mean, are you talking like 2001 Space Odyssey, like they left us a big obelisk or with instructions on it, or is it like fuel or water?
Water in the form of ice at the poles on the moon, which has been known now for a decade or two, and we need to go get that water because water plus electricity gives us oxygen,
electric water,
and hydrogen.
Electric water, I think that's right.
Hydrogen. Well, hydrogen.
Okay, wait. Okay, so all right. Now I'm not. Okay, so that's you think okay. So is that the big argument for going to the moon? Is that we can grab water from the moon?
It's one of them. Again, the experience of doing it to learn what we need to know to live on another planet, and then the resources that are available that can help us. Because the thing is, if you got to lift everything off of the Earth, that's really hard, and lifting that mass, if we have to lift everything off the Earth, that's hard. And there are people who are working on that problem to make that. SpaceX, for example, is one to try to make that as efficient and as inexpensive as possible. But there's also an advantage to being able to gather resources from the moon, which has a much lower gravity than the Earth, and it's easier to get on and off of. There's no atmosphere, which again makes it easier to get on and off of. And so between learning what to do, as Kraft Derricky pointed out, there's this place here. It's only 3 days away, and in an emergency, it's only 3 days away. Versus, when you start talking about going to Mars, it's a long ways away, and that's another part of it.
Okay, so you want to go to the moon and have some guys mine, for lack of a better term, mine the water, mine the ice that's there.
Make electrical water.
Well, make electric water with and you're going to get buzzing water.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go.
You drink electric water and you just jump to Mars. That's what I heard.
It's like Shazam. It's like Shazam.
It's a new product opportunity for Bufnagle, obviously. Okay. Electric water.
Bufnagle energy drinks, electric water.
Literally energy drinks. Those other guys, they say they have energy drinks, but Bufnagle would have real energy drinks.
Think about the profits.
This is not electric water. This is lunar electric water.
Oh, so even better.
Holy cow.
Even better.
This would be phenomenal. All right, so you're going to go there and you're going to grab the water out of there. You're going to
lunar electric water.
Lunar electric water. Well, you're going to take the lunar water, which is actually solid lunar water, which is ice. Very, very cold. All right, you're going to clean the dirt off it. You're going to put it in a tank. You're going to melt it somehow with some energy from the sun, and then you're going to what's it called? Hydrolyze it. You're going to break it apart and you're going to crack it, but that requires energy to do that.
Yes.
All right,
and
you're going to
which you have an abundance. There are places on the poles of the moon that are in almost continuous sunlight.
Okay, so you hook up a little solar, you contact Bufnagle Solar Machinery, Inc., all right, and you get a solar panel, and you use that to make lunar electric water, which is actually hydrogen and oxygen. You collect those two. So now you got hydrogen and oxygen, and you pump those into the rocket. Is that how you fuel the rocket? Or is that how you keep the astronauts alive? Or what?
Yes, all those. Astronauts need water to stay alive. Yep. They need oxygen to stay alive.
Yep.
And oxygen and hydrogen is a rocket fuel combination.
Right. And the only waste from that is something that astronauts can drink.
Yes.
Okay, and so we wouldn't use kerosene or gunpowder or any of that stuff, or we just going to use water to get to Mars?
We could.
Really? How much water do we need for that?
A lot. A
But
lot of
is there
water.
enough
But
water on the moon for that to be feasible?
yes,
At least once.
there's a lot. We need to characterize how much is there, but there's a lot of water on
How
the moon.
much is there?
What's it?
And
Okay.
how much? Wait, the better question is how much you need.
I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
I am not an encyclopedia. I have encyclopedias. Do you guys remember what encyclopedias are?
Yes, we do. I've read a lot of encyclopedia.
When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time with encyclopedias.
Okay, so all right, so we want to go. I'm just laying out the mission here because we'll put this in the. We'll do this for Bufnagle Space and Aeronautics Corp for the annual meeting next year. So we got to get to the moon. All right, and we'll do that kind of like we did before. We'll set up a little shop up there. We're gonna have people live in there.
Well, here's the thing about how we did that before. How we did that before was what is euphemistically called in the space fan uh, space interest area at flags and footprints. What we did was flags and footprints. We planted the American flag and we put footprints on the soil. We even put some lunar rover tire prints on the soil, collected some rocks and soil, and we did some science. Yes, we did science. It was great, especially the last 3 missions. We did a lot of science, but then we came home and we never went back. And we didn't go there to stay. We didn't go there to go back to what you and I feel we missed, that the thing that didn't happen. And part of the reason I think it didn't happen is because the reasons we went there in the first place weren't the reasons that we were thinking they were. They were other reasons. They were geopolitical reasons. And as soon as we no longer needed to do that, that wasn't there. We succeeded. Done. Hey, we met our goal. We said we were going to go to the moon. We went to the moon. Done. And
On
then
to
we
other
never
things. Yeah.
and we never went back. And so to go there and stay is what we want to do, and then to go to the next place and stay is what we want to do.
All right. So you're thinking that, and so you're imagining not just a mission, but you're imagining a whole. I don't even know what to call it, like a mission, like where you put people there running the water extraction machine. You're sending you have regular. What was that?
You have a series of missions going on with practicing getting from the Earth to the moon and practicing living on the moon in those environments, practicing turning the lunar ice into lunar water into lunar electric water. Like all of those things are going on simultaneously. So when you get into the position that say, okay, cool, we can do this. Now let's spend 3 years getting people from the moon to the Mars.
So to get to the Mars, we're gonna leave. We're gonna take off. Would we send all the parts to the moon, put them together there, and then go from there? Is that a what do they call it? A taking off place? Okay, so imagine you're Magellan going around the world, and you know what they did? They would leave Portugal or Spain or Italy. They'd sail out to the Azores, and they would refuel and get ready to go, and then they'd go. So is the moon like the Azores?
It could be. I mean, I just as soon not imagine that I was Magellan because he didn't make it back. But
I don't think there's any
that,
land wars to get caught up in Asia on Mars, but there could be.
Don't get involved in a land war in Asia, right? So
here's the thing. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily build a spacecraft on the moon because that would actually be harder than building one on Earth. But getting fuel there and either sending it back to Earth orbit where it could be used, or maybe you marshal spacecraft in lunar orbit and then you use an Oberth maneuver, which is a long story, which we're not going to get into.
Wait, what's the word? Just so people can look up.
It's the name of a German rocket scientist.
Oberth, Oberth.
Yes, and you would slingshot from the moon past the Earth and then on towards Mars, and that's one way to do it. The other way is just to go straight there, but not straight there like we went with Apollo, because we can't build rockets big enough to do that. So you need to, in order to go just, say skip the moon, forget about the moon. We're not going to do that. To go to Mars directly, you would need to build spacecraft or launch spacecraft into Earth orbit that you're going to send to Mars, and then you would need to refuel them in orbit. And then once you've done that, you can then embark on a trip to Mars.
And you could take everything you needed to get back with you all the way to Mars.
I would argue that you would absolutely want to take everything you needed to get back.
The other option is to send that stuff. Drop ships or something, right? I mean,
there's a few things there. I mean, one way to do this is to send ships there, but then extract fuel from Mars, either from the atmosphere and
Martian
the water.
Electric water.
Mars has water, ice, and it also has an atmosphere that is largely carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, it's one of those two. Anyways, so you can extract the carbon out of the atmosphere. There's ways to do that and
build
make fuel that way.
Okay.
Yes, and make fuel that way to get back. But what you would want to do is you'd want to send your Mars return ship first, get it there, make sure it's fueled up before you send your Mars ship with people on it to Mars that isn't going to have a way to get back. So that would be another way to do it. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it, and different people have different opinions on that, and lots been written on that topic. And I'm just kind of glossing over it. I'm not really getting into deep detail. But the key thing to remember about going to Mars is with chemical propulsion, which is what we got right now, you're talking, 5-6 month trip just to get there. And if you're weightless that whole time, that has some issues. And, there's the sun to worry about and solar flares and things like that. So that's just to get there. And then when you're there, you can't necessarily immediately come back, unless you stay for a very short time. If you're going to stay for any length of time, you're going to stay for 2 years and then come back.
And that's because the orbits are different. The Earth orbit and the Martian orbit are substantially of different periods.
Yes. Earth orbit is obviously a year. It takes a year to go around the sun. Mars is more like a little over 2 years. So there's an opportunity every 2 years and change to go to Mars and to come back from Mars.
And so if I'm trying to get to Mars from here, I go left when I leave the subdivision, right? Okay. So if I'm trying to get to Mars from here,
after you leave the subdivision,
that's right. So I have to do
then you go up.
I got to go up and over. Okay. And third star on the left. All right. So, but I kind of have to lead, I kind of shoot out there and try to lead to hit the Mars, like a quarterback throwing a pass, trying to hit the receiver coming across the middle.
You're going to hit Mars in stride.
I hit Mars in stride, but by that time, Earth isn't where it was before.
It's moved because it's moving. It's going around the sun once a year, and Mars is going around the sun once every 2 years. So the Earth is going a lot faster. And if you don't,
now you said stay for a very short time. Are you talking like days? Or you
days or weeks?
And then you can get back and still make it to Earth.
You could come back depending on how much fuel, how much propulsion,
Okay, so
the rocket equation.
So if I'm trying to get there, I want to get there as fast as I can, which means I want to go fast, which means I need a lot of fuel. Is there a limit to how fast? Okay, I know there's a limit to how fast I can go.
It's called C.
You see, it's not just it's the law, right? All right.
Yes.
So, but there's got to be a practical limit to how fast I can go. And does it matter if I go really fast? Do I need a lot of fuel to help slow me down? I mean, is that Is that a thing, or can I just use air friction when I get there? Can I
Okay, so
slingshot?
I mentioned chemical propulsion because that kind of puts an upper limit on how fast you can go. There's only so fast you're going to be able to go with current technology, engines, and fuels. And on the other end, getting there, one of the things you can do that Mars has that the Earth or that the Moon does not have. Mars does have an atmosphere, and you can use it to slow you down some. So there's that advantage there, and then and through friction with the atmosphere, that can take off some of the velocity you have getting there.
So would we go a lot faster going there than we went to the Moon? The Moon, we did 3 days, 250,000 miles, give or take, 80,000 miles a day. Is that right?
Yeah, but it wasn't 80. It wasn't linearly. It wasn't 80,000 miles the first day and then 80,000 miles the second day, because the Earth doesn't necessarily want to let go. So we left the Earth with escape velocity, but gravity is still pulling on us,
slowing us down.
And it slowed us down. But as we go farther, the pull is less, and we eventually get to a point where we're out of Earth's gravity well. And we're heading towards
into the Moon's gravity well.
Either the Moon, yes,
or the Sun,
or the Sun, or the or heading towards Mars. So if you leave Earth going towards Mars, you're basically going to leave Earth's gravitational influence, and you're going to head towards you're going to be in a solar orbit, and then from there you approach Mars, and then you want to get into Mars's gravity well. And orbit Mars or directly land, depending on how you've designed your spaceship and all that stuff.
Wow. Oh, okay. So we're not going to be able to solve that this afternoon. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not with that attitude.
Sadly,
no. Right. There I am, being a donor.
Now, when Zach just said we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah. So. Well. Okay. So you think we can go? All right. If we decided like if we committed I'll say the financial resources to this project. All right. Now, not infinite resources, of course, but we said, yeah, we're gonna really make this go, and we get top men working on that.
Top people.
The best. Well, okay, that was a quote from.
Fair enough.
Okay, but yes, obviously there's some phenomenal women working in the space program and all of STEM these days, which is awesome. But we would get these people involved and we'd fire it up. What's the timing on this thing? Is this I mean, the whole thing seems so much. It seems like this seems like. Let's see. The Moon was to, me walking to school in the morning, as this thing is going to I mean, this seems like such a big.
The Moon was to you walking to school in the morning. This is to getting to the Moon the first time.
Right. So it seems like it's that much harder, right? It's really hard.
In some respects, it is. In some respects, it isn't. I mean, the hard parts are keeping people alive the whole way there, keeping people alive when you're on Mars. I mean, if you're going to send people there, the point is for them to be alive while they're there, when they get there, while they're there, and when they come home, if they want to come home.
Well, I've seen The Martian, and he survives by himself with potatoes, so that's easy. We that one's easy. We solved that problem.
We can grow Can we grow potatoes on Mars?
Matt Damon did it, so why not?
It must be true. If it was in the movie, it must be true.
So you've seen that movie?
I did, and I really enjoyed it. I did not read the book.
Fine. That's fine.
I didn't read the book, but I enjoyed the movie because it was a nice movie.
Yeah. So was there anything? Is there anything? Because we just got a couple minutes left here. Anything in there that was like, wait a minute, stop, or was it all? I mean, other than the fact that he was like. I mean, right at the end when he grabs the magic rope and pulls himself, whatever that is. So like,
well, of course there was the scene when they're whizzing by Mars and he launches and then there's the glove and the whole thing. And that was, yeah. Anyways.
Well, it's a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
But in
then
general, the
because
principles
it was a
work.
movie, I'm not so sure. I'm convinced that you can grow potatoes on Mars in the soil on Mars, but I'm not a botanist.
We'd have to bring one along.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
Bufnagle
maybe
produce and botany.
that's what we learned from that movie.
Is that you need a botanist.
When all else fails, rely on the botanist. If that fails, rely on Matt Damon.
That's right. He'll get us out of there. And on the way home, we'll stop and rescue him with Tom Hanks
Again.
at the bridge. I watched Saving Private Ryan again the other night. That was yeah.
There's a lot of movies where the United States government has invested a lot of money into rescuing Matt Damon.
That's a very good point.
And maybe
I'm
that's
not sure what that says about Matt Damon, what that says about the U.S. government, or what that says about Hollywood. But regardless, it's a thing to know.
I got you. Well, okay. So here's what I'm thinking. All right. Okay. So we are here nearing the end of our little time here with Bob. Bob, I'm thinking we should have you back to dig deeper into some of these things we just brushed on. I'd like to talk a little bit more about electric water. I'd like to talk about rocket systems and get a better timing of these orbital things, because I'm sure some people have just started now thinking about them. How long it would take to get there, and what do we have to bring to keep people alive? I just can't imagine the magnitude of this thing. Of course, it took Magellan a year to outfit his ships. We know that. It's going to take more than a year to get this thing ready. I'd like to have you come on sometime and discuss this in more detail.
I would love to do that. And one of the things I would also suggest is that we throw out the question to our listeners and see what questions they have on the topic.
See, that's why we have him on, Zach. All right, no, that's great. That's great. We'll get some more some input from that, and we'll take it from there. What do you think, Zach?
I think that sounds like a fantastic plan. So, Bob, we'll see you again in the future, and we'll talk more about Mars and space and rescuing Matt Damon again. But until then, thank you all for listening. Go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.